Hi, Books. Mwah. Love you. Look at your little tummy. Love you. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video in which we are going to be reviewing Lele Pons' awful book, #Surviving High School. I know, it sounds epic. Last time we left Lele's awful book, she was busy insulting and being jealous of the few friends she'd actually managed to make at her new school and from her old school. Basically, Lele's just not great at being a good person. Meanwhile, she decided that if she wanted to get popular in school, which was her goal, she didn't need to actually try being nice to people and making friends. Instead, all she needed was an expensive makeover. Yeah. Today, we are going to be continuing our deep dive into this absolutely ridiculous attempt at a young adult novel. But before then, I want to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, which is Native. As you guys know, I'm a little bit obsessed with all things health, beauty, skincare, general pampering, but one of my biggest concerns is that I want to make sure all the products I'm using are vegan and cruelty free while still being really good quality and affordable, because I'm not made of money. The biggest problem I've had, especially now I've moved to Leeds, is finding a vegan cruelty free deodorant in my local shops. Like, there's probably some somewhere, haven't found them, which is why when Native approached me and were like, hey, do you mind if we send you some products, and if you like them, you know, we'll sponsor you, I was like, yes, please. Right off, I'm going to show you these because, for one, the packaging is beautiful. Like, if nothing else, these just look really great in the bathroom. But they have this absolutely incredible range of aluminium, paraben, and sulfate-free deodorants that come in like the most amazing scents. So out of the three that I chose, my absolute favorite is the coconut and vanilla. This is such, oh my god, it's such a nice scent. This is like good enough to eat, and this is my favorite. This is the one I've been using the most. I also got this citrus and herbal musk one, which is a little more, I don't want to say masculine, but definitely more gender neutral in the scent. I feel like anyone could wear this. It just smells very clean, which is really nice. And the other one is, if you want something a little less kind of like strong scented and a lot more kind of neutral, I went for the charcoal one. Again, just a very kind of fresh scent, and I really love it. So if you don't like overly feminine scents, citrus and herbal musk. If you don't like strong scents, charcoal. If you want something that's really nice and like smells good enough to eat, coconut and vanilla. Oh, recommend them all. I gotta say as well, like, applying them feels really different to a normal like roll-on deodorant, because it's a lot kind of, I want to say almost creamier. Like, it's not wet when you put it on, and you guys know I'm terrible with mornings. I'm always late for everything, so I don't really like wasting time. You know, when you put deodorant on, then you have to kind of like flap around before you put your clothes on. There's none of that with these, which is amazing, and I love it. Anyway, the point is, these are absolutely wonderful, and I cannot recommend them enough. You guys know I don't do sponsorships often, so when I do, it's always a product that I'm really passionate about, and these are no different. I thoroughly recommend you go check out their website, which is linked down below. They don't just have deodorants, but a whole range of amazing products. And if you do want to use my link and code below, then one, it helps support my channel, and two, and this is the most important bit, you can get a set of 3 deodorants for just $24 instead of the usual $36, which is like a third off. Crazy good value when you consider how good quality these are and how long they last. Plus, cruelty-free, delivered right to your door. What more can you want, really? When you're lazy like me. Love it. So again, huge thank you to Native for sponsoring this video. Thank you to you guys for giving me the opportunity to do these little sponsorship shout out things. With demonetization what it is, and every other one of my videos being demonetized, little sponsorships like these, and of course your support over on Patreon helps me keep making these videos full time and making sure I can do what I love and entertaining you guys in the process, and hopefully educating you a little bit too. So thank you so much to Native, thank you so much to you guys. Now let's jump back into Lele Pons' book. And thank you Lele Pons for writing something so awful. I have so much content. So, back to the book. I was going to start by analysing the opening of chapter 9, but it's just a dream sequence. And it's a dream sequence about a haircut going wrong that has no actual consequences in the real world of the story. There's no consequences to the plot other than Lele saying the line, maybe I don't actually need an expensive haircut, therefore undoing the one tiny little bit of plot development that we got in the last chapter, and then it's never spoken about or heard of again. It has absolutely no effect on anything. I was just going to skip over it, but to be honest, there is this one part, couple of lines, which it's literary genius, and I don't think it would be fair to skip over them. It tells us a hell of a lot about Lele, who she is, and also just her talent as a writer. This part here, we get 383 characters of scream. Just a scream. That's beautiful. I guess my one critique of this is that it's a little bit subtle. I don't really know how loud this scream is. I don't know how intense the scream is. I just wish maybe she'd included a few more exclamation marks to make it a little clearer. But other than that, I can't say this with a serious face. Yeah, God, how was this published? So after she wakes up from the bad dream, we get this absolutely hilarious joke where Lele says, "But I'm going to change. I'm going to show everyone that I can be charming. I can be pretty. I can be popular. I am human and I need to be loved, just like everybody else does. Am I right, Morrissey, or am I right?" I mean, Lele clearly didn't intend this to be a joke, but the idea of Lele Pons listening to or even knowing who Morrissey is kind of hilarious. In all seriousness, though, the next little paragraph is probably the highlight of the book so far, and for once I'm not being sarcastic, I know. It's actually not terrible, but I don't know if just my perspective has been skewed. So if I was reading any other book, this would still be poor. But compared to what's in the rest of this book, I'm almost impressed. Neon green numbers on my nightstand flash 3 a.m. Typical. I hate 3 a.m. It is my least favourite time. Of all the 24 hours, it is by far the worst, which is normally alright because you normally sleep through it. Tonight, no such luck. In 9th grade, we read Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. And there was this one line that says something like, 3 in the morning is the time when your body's slowed down so much that it's as close to death as it will ever be while you're alive. I'm probably messing it up majorly, but the point is, that info really traumatized me. Now, 3 a.m. seems like a twisted, haunted hour that no one should have to deal with. The shadows and total stillness, it all just gives me the creeps. So obviously it's not great. There's, which normally is alright because normally you sleep through it. There's lots of weird repetition like that. It's still not well written. It's a little bit kind of bleh, but compared to the rest of the book, it's not actually awful. It feels kind of relevant to Lele's character and to some extent the plot. We start to understand Lele's feelings as a character and an author. It has a fairly decent reference there to Ray Bradbury that actually feels like the kind of comparison a teenage girl would make. It's badly written, but not when compared to some parts of this book. And the bit where she says, I'm probably messing it up majorly, but the point is, this info really traumatized me, I actually find kind of insightful, We see Lele's insecurities, but how also she maybe isn't quite as dumb as she seems. It's shocking, but in a good way. So, for once, I don't hate this part. Didn't expect to be saying that, I'll be honest, but there we go. And then, after this tiny little glimmer of hope, she ruins it. To distract myself from the creepiness of 3 a.m. and the sheer horror of going bald, that's what happened in the dream, I get up and start doing sit-ups on my floor. No man, if I could have abs as flat as Darcy's, I would be one happy Lele 2.0. Okay, let's start with some basic crunches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh boy, this burns. 6, 7, 8, dear Lord, I'm on fire. 9, 10, never again, never again. Too hard. Too tired to keep going. I lift my shirt and check to see if I've made any progress. None. So she's back to this bad writing, the shallow comparisons, lists, screaming, numbers, and it's a bit of a shame. But hey, we've seen a little bit of a glimmer of light in the dark, so there's maybe some hope for the rest of this book. Maybe. Probably not, though. So she ends up doing a bunch of exercise in the middle of the night and watching some YouTube makeup tutorials. And this latter bit of the makeup tutorials, yeah, it's actually kind of believable. I actually kind of like it. It's actually okay. It's a decent plot point because that is what a lot of insecure teenage girls do. That's what I did when I was an insecure teenage girl. Yeah, brilliant. But then once again, she ruins it by saying that she then uses my mum's credit card, memorized, to order everything I need for Operation Makeover. Do not try this at home. And so, I know she added that last line, but it still is such an awful, irresponsible thing to include in your book, and I still hate this narrative of, oh, when you have a problem, when you have an insecurity, when there's an issue, throw money at it. I hate it. So the next day at school, she's really tired, obviously, because she's been up half the night since 3 a.m, and her crush, Alexi, congratulates her on her last Vine doing really well, and asks to collab with her again on a Vine. He's already asked this before. This is basically a really unnecessary repeat of the end of chapter 6. It's basically the same conversation. Nothing in the plot has moved along. Nothing has changed. I don't know why it's in here twice other than just to fill space. You know, it's crazy. 4 chapters have passed since then, and there's been no plot development. So, yeah, that was literally all of chapter 9. Nothing happened. On to chapter 10. This opens with the line, I've taken my mum up on her offer to let me have a party, which is a reference to a single line that was said in chapter 5, which hasn't been spoken about since. So again, the plot kind of weirdly jumps around. She spends ages talking about things that are never mentioned again, and then she has these throwaway lines which end up being like, I don't want to say fairly big plot points because there's barely any plot, but at least make something happen. It's all just very, very bizarre. She says, so far, Alexi and Darcy are my only Miami High friends, but I spent Friday inviting anyone who seemed like a particularly nice person. I told Darcy to do the same. We even made invitations out of some Lisa Frank stationery I found under my bed. Technicolor dolphins frolicking through a flurry of hearts in a neon rainbow ocean. It's actually kind of adorable, let's be honest. And honestly, this is the first point in the book. First point in 10 chapters where we've actually seen Lele try and make an effort to be friends with people and do something nice and do something good, and it's actually kind of sweet, so I like it. Unfortunately, it does not pay off, probably because Lele has spent the last 10 chapters picking fights, ignoring people, being grumpy, and complaining a lot. So on the night of the party, Lele tries to follow a makeup tutorial on YouTube, and we get this really bizarre description of the tutorial she's following. I don't even know what to make of this. I'm applying cat eye makeup step by step, following the instructions from a YouTube tutorial by a girl whose voice has the poise of a British accent and the mangled annotations of an Australian one. She sounds like a kangaroo that is trying to seduce me, and it's honestly pretty confusing. Don't know about anyone else, but this description is honestly pretty confusing. A kangaroo trying to seduce me. Her parents do the typical, parent party talk of no drinking, make sure if kids do drink, they don't drive, no underage sex. It's all reasonable, all fair. And then Lele says, I go down into the kitchen to get a soda. And this is when I see the horror of all horrors. It's mum and dad, dressed in full hip-hop attire, wigs and gold chains included, dancing to 80s disco. So this is before the party starts. No one else sees them other than Lele. It just happens. I don't know why. I don't even know what to comment at this point. But then Darcy and Alexi turn up and they usher her parents back up to their room, so there are no real consequences to any of this. It was another pointless joke that did nothing for the plot and wasn't even funny. It's just bizarre. Lele really needs to learn about Chekhov's gun. For those of you who don't know what that is, Chekhov's gun is basically, it's like this theory where he said, if you put a gun on show in Act 1, it needs to go off in Act 3. Basically, it's saying anything you set up needs to pay off, and anything that's going to be a big thing needs to be set up. That's oversimplifying, but basically, yeah. Then there's this weird exchange about beer pong with Lele's friends, and it's such an awkward mix of, them kind of peer pressuring her, a lot of naivety on Lele's part, but also attempting to kind of be responsible and send kids, a good message, but also it's just really cringy and comes across as kind of oh yeah, I'm like a cool mom, on Lele, the author's part, and it's cringy. It's a lot, yeah. So the party happens. Or not. Because embarrassingly, no one turns up to the party. And I just kind of feel like if Lele hadn't been so rude to everyone and spent weeks purposefully avoiding people and being sulky and picking fights, if she hadn't been like that, maybe I'd feel sorry for her at this point. But because of all that, I don't. And also, it's weird because this would be a really good point for Lele to kind of reflect on why no one showed up and kind of think a little bit about her behaviour and how she treats people and learn from it. But she doesn't. There's just none of that, and it's weird. Instead, we get this weird exchange where Alexei and Darcy try and make her feel better, and honestly, this is just kind of tasteless. Well, it's hard to have a party last minute on a Saturday. A lot of people already have plans they've made in advance. Oh, sweet Alexei trying to spare my feelings. That's okay, Alexei. You don't have to try to cheer me up. Worse things have happened in the history of the world than throwing a sad and lonely party that no one shows up to. You say it, but I don't believe it, says Darcy. It's true. You know me so well. I wrap my arms around Darcy's neck. What is worse than this? Tell me one thing that's worse than this. The Holocaust. Darcy deadpans. Yep, good answer, Darcy, I say, snapping out of my hissy fit and laughing. Good answer. So, earlier in the book we get a few slightly racist jokes, and now, a Holocaust punchline. Yep, standard book for children. A few of her old friends from her old school actually show up to the party, and there's actually this really cute moment of, like, real friendship where they all end up going out for ice creams, and it's kind of sweet, and you're like, oh, okay, kind of like it. And then just out of nowhere, we get the line, we go to town on soda and ice cream until we're dizzy with sugar, making a game of throwing darts at the balloons, watching them pop one by one. It's a wonderfully good time and an epic bonding session until I throw a dart and it goes point first into Ariana's forehead. Whoops. No real damage, but blood trickling down the front of someone's face does tend to put a dampener on festivities. And then the party scene just ends. That's it. The first time I read this, I had to stop and read it back like 3 times to be like, wait, did she really say that? Did that really happen? Or is she claiming that really happened? Like, this isn't just some weird Lele dream sequence. Like, she's actually using that as part of the plot. Is this supposed to be believable or funny or relatable? It's just bizarre. I don't get it. Yeah. So then, like I say, the party that scene just ends in the book. There's no conclusion other than this girl being hit in the head by a dart. And then out of nowhere we get told this weird story of, I can't get anything right. I'm a walking disaster. It's been that way for my whole life, or as long as I can remember. When I was 3 years old, I put one of my grandma's Valium pills up my nose. I mean, not on purpose or anything. I wasn't trying to get it up there. I honestly don't know how it happened. But the next thing I knew, it was lodged in deep and wouldn't come out. My mum had to rush me to hospital before the Valium could get into my little baby brain. But maybe it did anyway. Maybe that's why it takes a miracle for me to do anything right. I don't even know why she included this. It's like never mentioned again or anything. This night, Lele has another nightmare, this time about her friends abandoning her, and when she wakes up she says, I want to pour myself a stiff drink. But because I don't have any alcohol, and I'm still way underage, I pour myself into my art instead. And at this point I'm just like, don't say vine, don't say vine, don't say vine. She says vine. Yeah, that's right. I just referred to my vines as my art. And I'll do it again. Art is self-expression in the form of something presentable as a way to cope with being a miserable outcast. I'm pretty sure that's how it's been since the beginning of time. So, if I have to be an outcast, I might as well document my misadventures and heartbreaks. Maybe that way, all the other outcasts out there won't feel so alone. A life without purpose is a life not worth living. Is that a thing people say? I mean, Lele calling her vines art is about as accurate as Gabby Hanna calling this poetry, but yeah, whatever. At least Lele shows a little self-awareness about how ridiculous this is, even if she does get defensive straight after, you know? And then, does anyone remember in an earlier video when, I think I maybe said it like twice in 2 different videos, how I said I wanted to see more about Lele's vine making process, like her creative process. A lot of what she's said and done up to this point is just, and then I made a vine, and then I published a vine, then I went on Vine. And that's it. I said I kind of wanted to see a little bit more, and here we actually get that. I mean, it's still lazily written, it doesn't go into any kind of detail, but it's like a tiny bit more than we got before. And again, compared to any other book, it's still not good, it's still not descriptive, it's still not enough, I still want more, but compared to the earlier parts of the book, you know, look, if there's not many good things about this book, but if it has taught me one thing, it's that we need to grab the few little crumbs of positivity where we can. And in this case, at least it's nice to see Lele putting some effort into what she creates and writing about that, you know? So she says, I get on my notepad and start brainstorming. If Alexei wants to be in a vine with me, I'm going to have to make sure it's something good, something impressive. In the light of the moon, I scribble. A girl abandoned by friends seeks revenge by stealing a school bus. How I act when my friends don't wait for me. So it's not a lot, it's not detailed, it's very kind of silly and stupid and just referencing the dream she just had and whatever, like, it's still underdeveloped, but at least it's more than we had before, and at least we can see that she does actually put some effort into her vines. I'd just like to see more about that, and more encouraging young people to put effort into their work, their art, the things that they're passionate about, you know? And now on to chapter 11. Lele decides to call Alexei to arrange making the vine with him, and she's nervous. She spends a whole page telling us she's nervous. And it's this amazing skill where Lele can write so much without saying anything at all. She's like the Jordan Peterson of young adult fiction. She decides to procrastinate by going on a run and managed to drop in both a brand name, which I'm wondering if she got paid for, including, and she manages to brag about herself again. So she says, "Seriously, mate?" Sorry. People like to drive up and down my street in these like big cars, like revving their engines like woo woo woo. I'm like, oh, douchebag. Seriously, you're still doing it? Didn't get this in London. All I had there was a nice little DLR going by, just chugging along. Anyway, sorry, so she writes, "I decide to go on a run. I put on my Lululemon gear and set off for a jog around the block. I'm actually a surprisingly good runner. I say surprisingly because I'm basically the laziest person alive, but truth is, I have long legs and a lot of nervous energy to burn off." She tries to do this like self-deprecating humor, but can't help but brag about herself in the process, and it's just so awful. Oh my god. I had to Google Lululemon because this is me. And oh my god, that stuff is ridiculously expensive and overpriced. Like, I cannot get over her whole rich kid privilege thing, you know? Like, back when I was at school, back when I was Lele's age, my family had to buy dodgy knockoff school uniforms that were made by like this woman in a kitchen in Barnsley, because like the official school stuff was too expensive. Like, who can afford like 30 quid for a polo shirt? That's ridiculous. Anyway, especially when you're a teenager and you need like at least 3, if not 5 of them per week, you know, because you're gross. Anyway, yeah, Lele here, I looked at these leggings, they're like 70 quid for leggings, and I'm here in my like little £6 Primark leggings, you know, been like, who affords that? Who can spend that? And yeah, I might have just got so like ranty about this that my camera just cut out and I didn't realise. So you may have been cut off mid-rant, probably a good thing. But then, with more rich kid privilege, Lele goes on about her dad's downstairs gym. So yeah, what the hell? That is just an insane alien concept to me, like home gyms. And she goes on about how she's poor because, yeah, her house has a pool, but it's not a big pool like someone has. Ugh. Hey, pretty one. Looking for a cuddle. Come here. You know. So, yeah, then in this chapter, she, after bragging about her long legs and her home gym and expensive gym clothes, she stresses about calling Alexei some more, and then she finally does it. He invites her over to his house to film in this like really casual way, and she just reads into it way too much, which on the one hand is really annoying, but on the other is kind of like, yeah, okay, I can see a teenage girl actually overthinking like that. So he says, "You should come over to my place, my parents are out, so we'll have the whole space to ourselves." What? Did he just make this a date? Did he? Seriously, tell me. I don't know how to speak boy. So ridiculous. Bizarre. Anyway. Yeah, and that's a whole chapter where nothing happened except she made one phone call. Like, I don't get how you can spin a whole chapter out of one phone call that wasn't even eventful. Oh my god, I swear this book is just 80% filler. And that's where we're going to end this video. If you would like to see the next video in which Lele actually goes on her date/Vine filming, maybe something will actually happen. And we will also be reading the life-changing chapter that is chapter 13, titled 3 Signs That Show a Person is Latin. If that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will. Beautiful. So if you are keen to see that, the next part of this video in which we're doing this deep dive into Lele Pons' awful, awful book, #surviving high school. Hi there, Beam. I was just laid here licking my leg. If you are keen to see that, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications so you will always be notified about when I'm uploading. I have some really cool videos coming up that I'm working on that I'm very excited about sharing with you, including one where we're going to be looking at some Yorkshire poetry. I've got my Fresh Poet Society coming up, in which I'm going to be critiquing your poems for last month's prompt. If you want to go see the prompt for this month and submissions, go check out my website, rachelates.me. This month I'm also accepting short stories, which is very exciting. Yeah, I think that's pretty much me done for now. Thank you so much again to Native, who have sponsored this video. I absolutely adore their products and thoroughly recommend you go check them out. Hello, do you want a sniff? Oh, Kyrouac likes them too, don't you? Yes. And don't forget to use my link and code, which is down in the description below, to get a third off your order of deodorants. So worth it, seriously. Amazing value. But for now, thank you so much for watching today. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you to Native. Thank you to my Patreons. Thank you to Kyrouac for being the best friend in the world. Yes, I love you. And thank you to everyone who has watched today. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. And I will see you again very soon. Say bye-bye, Kyrouac. Look at the camera. Say bye-bye. Oh, good girl. I love you. Oh, you have lipstick kisses all over you now. You okay with that? Yes. She's a good girl. She puts up with a lot.